And you can be a part of the conversation this morning by sending in your messages via WhatsApp on 0809 440 You can also join us on YouTube where we're streaming live. Yes, it's Smooth 981 FM Lagos. We love when you join the conversation. Let us hear your thoughts, your reactions, and of course your opinions on the stories that we will be discussing. And analysts that are joining me to break down these stories, I have Joseph and AB. Very good morning to you, gentlemen. Good to have you on. Good morning. Great to be here.
Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Ayo. It's nice to be here again.
It's good to have you on. All right. Now, there's so many things, so much stories making the rounds, development here and there. And Joseph, I'm going to start with you on this one. Let's go over to Osun State, where the leadership of the joint labor movement in Osun State has rejected the staff audits proposed by the state government, demanding proper briefing on the exercise. Now, the position of the labor leaders was sequel to circulation of forms among workers by a consulting firm that was hired by the government for the purpose of counting the number of workers on its payroll.
An audit of staff is, it's something commendable because the government wants to save costs. But one of the challenges we've always had in Nigeria is leaders that take people for granted. So you have critical stakeholders, beneficiaries, or those who are supposed to be important part of that thing you're doing, and you do not engage them. So it's disrespectful, to say the least, when you just spring things on people who are important stakeholders in anything you're managing. And that's why the workers are protesting. It's not just a protest that they are not saying they don't want the audit. What they are saying is that they should have been engaged. But either way, if the labor leaders understand the importance of all staff audit and what it means to even themselves, because when the state government saves money, then they can reinvest that money in other aspects of the welfare of workers as well. So I think it's important that the Osun State government really takes time out to engage the workers properly and inform and educate them on the importance of the audit so that everybody benefits from it. But we also have situation where most of the labor leaders like the activism and they always want to grandstand because they can still go, their process can go on while they make their complaint known that they will still want to be engaged. Stopping the exercise won't be to the interest of anybody, not the state, not the workers.
All right, Amy, do you think that Osun State dropped the ball on this?
According to the story, if indeed they didn't engage the people, I think there's a much better way they could have done that. But somehow we've always associated the word audit and probe with negativity. You do realize, of course, that if you actually know the nature, the number, and the cadre of staff, it aids perhaps in planning for training. It aids in distribution of benefits and all that. So like the leaders did say, they don't say it's not a good thing or it's all negative, but there's something called stakeholder management and engagement in any project you're about to embark upon. It appears that the Osun government could have done a better job if the words of this story are to be taken at face value.
All right, let's check out our next story here, and this one is from the premium fund. And Iggy, I'm going to stay with you on this one. And we had a brief chat about this before we came on. The National Population Commission, that's the NPC, says it has spent about 200 billion naira to prepare for the 2023 population and housing census. Now that's part of the 800 billion in total that is expected from the federal government for that exercise. So far, 200 billion has been spent for preparations up to this point.
Now, you see, we're unfortunately dealing in an environment of low citizen government trust. I can't sit here without all the documentation and a process to determine if or whether that sum has been judiciously expended, and if indeed the entire cost of our proposed census is value for the money. But there are reports that indicate that among select emerging markets, benchmarked in United States dollars, we have absolutely the highest possible cost, even considering the population. We are talking about $1.8 billion in total expected to be spent on our 215 million population, while India, with 1.4 odd billion people, is only spending $470 million dollars. So again, it goes back to a culture and a history of poor accountability. Other countries similarly, with similar populations are spending far, far less. I'm talking about a tenth and a fifth of the cost. Something appears to be wrong. In the story, they said part of the procurement, part of the issues to do with it is the cost of procuring the equipment, because it's supposed to be an all digital census. And this is where I marvel at the lack of vision of some of those that call themselves leaders in Nigeria. A census like this would be an eminent opportunity to make the software and hardware, at least significant components of them, right here in Nigeria, so that the long-term goal will be, of course, the short-term, get your numbers, but the long-term, inspire and improve the production, both in hardware and software environment in Nigeria. But rather, they're going about this wholesale procurement from abroad thing, which we saw, I must add, supposedly done in the election with so-called high-tech beavers machines, and we're here where we are right now. So back to the start, there's a low trust environment. And that is why this sum of 200 million in preparations thus far sounds incredible. But they did say they've retained about 1 million personnel, the training and all that. Again, I'm not sitting here to cast, one judgment one way or the other about that sum. I'm saying benchmarked against other countries with similar populations and similar economic indices, we are way over cost. Therefore, if we're more efficient, we would save money. And if we're more visionary, we would improve technology that is home-based.
All right. Now, Joseph, looking at the census now, we've seen the numbers, 800 billion in total. But the census in question, we have, at the moment, we don't know exactly when it's going to be conducted, whether or not it's going to be in the nearest future, whether it's going to be months away or a year away. We have no idea right now. Now, looking at the fact that 200 billion has been spent so far, and we know how peculiar Nigeria's environment is there a possibility that maybe somewhere along the line there'll be stories of, because the census didn't take place when it was supposed to, something happened to the equipment?
You're going to review the cost.
Or the software is now out of date, and all sorts of different things. What would happen in that scenario?
Well, the truth is that nothing will happen. There's nothing you, me, or anybody else can do about it. They will just simply go ahead and do the figures again and say, oh, well, things have changed. We are talking about 800 billion naira. South Africa is spent less than $120 million on its census. Yeah, I agree South Africa is smaller than Nigeria. But if you, just like B said, if you look at it proportionately, there is no how you should be spending such humongous amounts of money on a process that in other places, when you look at the benchmark against ours looks ridiculous. So oftentimes we just look stupid to the world, because if anybody in the world looks at these things, we simply just marvel how it is possible that a government can do this to its people. Because it becomes very apparent to anybody who is looking at it that some persons are just there to line their pockets or feather their nest. And that's the conclusion anybody can draw. There is nothing we can do about it. At the end of the day, they will get their way. That's it. That's what happens in Nigeria.
All right, let's wait and see what happens on that front. Now, let's talk about INEC and some political matters here. And I'm staying. I'm Ebi. Let's do this now. So this is from the Guardian newspaper, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is Think about it. That is INEC. President-elect Bola Tinubu and the All Progressive Congress (APC) have kicked against the request of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar for the live telecast of his petition challenging the declaration of Tinubu as the winner of the 2023 presidential election. This is raging back and forth to be televised or not to be televised, but still here.
Well, arguments, in my view, can be made from both perspectives. Those in opposition are saying there's a risk of grandstanding, that there's no specific, and Joseph would be better placed to speak about the specifics, but that there's no provision in the law for how it could be achieved, and that there are existing reporters in and around the court premises. And so what's the need for it? Others are saying, in terms of this being a very important national issue with a wide variety of Nigerian and foreign stakeholders, it could enhance the credibility in their view of the process if the process is televised. Some have said on a lighter note that if you're able to televise the counting of the votes, why can't you televise the determination of the suit? But that's on, I say, that's on a lighter note. The thing is, at the bottom line for me, whether or not it's televised, I call absolutely no question as to the competence, the ability, the willingness, and the focus of the judges to take the judicial matters on board, rule on them, and give a verdict that will be seen to be acceptable by all. So it could be a matter of style. If you do broadcast it, many people who are watching will not even understand the intricacies and delicacies of the law, but you will feel connected one way or the other. And then you can call Joseph and ask for explanations. What did I just see? But if you keep it in the dark, some people might feel aggrieved. My personal view, in the national interest, there's no harm in televising it, but there could be very specific arguments about why not. And that's why they're having the discussion. But they have said they will rule on it maybe today. No, they didn't say when they would rule on it. So we wait to hear what the decision will be at the end of the day.
Yeah. Joseph, do you think the proceeding should be televised or not?
Well, the thing is that, as the B has said, and many people have argued, this will have, it's an emotional thing. Nigerians are very emotionally connected to this very election. And there have been all kinds of distrust about the process. So for the sake of transparency, some people have argued that this should be, but it lies in the ball lies in the court of the judges, the justices of Supreme Court and the tribunal to say whether they will or not. In other jurisdictions, these things have been done, and there was no how you can set the ground rules for how it is done. So the argument as it is not possible, it's never been done, it's not really tenable. And the emotional blackmail of saying that the judges will be in harm's way, I don't understand how that happens, because I mean, even judges right now, they make pronouncement judgments, and they are still protected. So I don't see that reporters become danger because their presence in the court with cameras. So the simple thing is, if it's going to be done, they can lay down the rules for how it is conducted, and it can be perfectly conducted. After all, we did during the COVID time, courts had to go online, and we started having those kind of sessions. Those are the kind of innovations we should be seeing in our systems.
All right, thanks for that, Joseph. You're listening to Smooth 98.1. A Freshly Pressed will continue in a moment. You stay with us. There's a message here on WhatsApp. Very interesting. I'm going to read it up. It's from Abbas. Let me just read it. Let me just really quickly before I read it out. It says, we are always quick to question every government spending because of our mistrust of them. The UK just spent over £162 million on the burial of the Queen. Such would have raised dust in Nigeria because we place too much value on money mentioned without looking at all the angles of expenditure.
That's funny, because if you benchmark it against a similar ceremony elsewhere, you will say the king actually had to cut down the cost of that that whole coronation and burial and so on. They had to do a whole lot. That was their queen.
Not
And,
just
that's
that.
it.
I dare say maybe, it came from their commonwealth as in the royal family. But of course, there'll be people's contributing. My summary of that is UK has light, so they can spend 162 million. When we have light, we will spend 162 million equally. Let's get to the level. Before you benchmark the UK, benchmark them on all grounds. They have certain things we have not provided for our people. So our priorities should be different. That's my summary of it.
I'll take the message now. We're
Of
going
course.
back. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. My name is Ayokunmi, and with me analyzing the stories this morning are AD and Joseph. Let's go to WhatsApp and take a couple of your thoughts. This is from Abbas, and Abbas says, we are always quick to question every government spending because of our mistrust of them. The UK just spent over £162 million on the burial of the Queen. Such would have raised dust in Nigeria because we place too much value on money mentioned without looking at all angles of expenditure.
In my view,
they are not. It's okay. So maybe you go.
In my view, UK has light. So after you provide light, water, healthcare, and all the other infrastructure, maybe you have something left over to spend £162 million on your population and your fallen leader. When those leaders do the same thing here, we wouldn't even notice the difference. I mean, that's on a semi-lighter note. You cannot benchmark just those figures without benchmarking the entire society. But in summary, we don't question figures. I've always said that I don't have a problem with loans and figures. I have a problem with how we benchmark them again against similar populations or even huger populations. We have no excuses for the kinds of sums we claim we're spending on things in Nigeria. We are not living, context is everything. We don't live in outer space. We live here on planet Earth.
All right, let's take another one here. This is from Inkabolu. Inkabolu says, Labour wants to be engaged at what? Please, I'd like to know who pays who. I blame the governor for even making public in the first place. Just introduce a timesheet-based system where everyone fills their activities and let's see who's an overhead and who's productive. This is the same duty of the government and needs no engagement with anyone. You as a staff decide when your appraisal will take place if your line unit manager has set the timetable. Same reason why Labour will back teachers who don't want to write promotional exams. All right, Nkabo, thanks for your thoughts. Let's get back to the stories, and I'll take this one from the Daily Post. And Joseph, the leadership of the National Health Insurance Authority, that's the NHIA, said it will increase access to quality and affordable healthcare services for the people of Taraba State and Nigerians at large. And this was made known on Thursday at the flag off of the state's formal sector health plan and commencement of access to care for the over 26,000 enrollees of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund in the state capital.
You see, I think that the NHIA is not even driving the health insurance thing as aggressively as I expected. In a country where healthcare is very poor, paying out of pocket for many people is actually just excruciating. We expect that conscious effort should be made in making people enroll in this program aggressively, such that the pool of fund that comes in here will also help in ensuring of the particularly primary health care, which most of the time is covered by such insurance. But what we see is 26,000 enrollees in one place, 26,000 in a population of what? That's the question.
We're trying to find out for 800 million.
Yes, so you just can't. It's ridiculous. These are the areas we need more funds, where we need to push more money, more spending, and so on, in terms of education, in terms of support, and so on. This is where the government subsidy should come. This is where I expect that government is bringing our money and say, we are going to subsidize your enrollment in this program. And these are the kind of things we should expect. But then these are not priorities to our leaders, but it matters so much. And the point is that whatever little effort is being made is appreciated. but we can do far more. Nigeria, these agencies of government can do far better than they are doing.
All right, maybe do you agree with that assertion?
I fully concur. We have every ability to do so much better than we currently are. So I fully concur with Joseph.
All right, Joseph, I'm going to stay with you right now to look at this this next story that is coming out of Business Day, and talk about the federal government that has disclosed plans to amend the Bureau of Public Procurement, that's the BPP Act 2007, to cater for increased women participation in public procurement. What do you think about this?
Beautiful, beautiful initiative, because our women have always felt left out in many areas, in politics, in business. Our women form a very critical part of our demography, and we've seen again and again women run successful businesses. And when a woman takes on a project, she can actually be determined to bring out something out of it. That does not mean that we've not seen women who have been wasteful, but in terms of the number of them who actually go out doggedly to achieve results, they have done very well. So if government is paying attention to this and wants to ensure that that aspect of the business is taken care of, women can come in easily with much. One of the challenges women always complain about is funding, the seed fund for them to start businesses at the level they want. But small businesses run by women are succeeding here or there. You talk about restaurants, events, and all those kind of things, and so many other areas where there are some of them are even going into the digital space and so on, and they are doing really, really well. So an act like this kind, amending it and trying to cater for, some kind of affirmative action for women is encouraging, and it should be supported.
It should be supported. All right, let's take a couple of more messages from WhatsApp. Tony says, our lamentation on financial rascality of our politicians and public office holders will continue, because what we have is businessmen who spent so much in their desperation for office and for the simple reason of going for the cookie jar. So sad. They really don't care about us. God save our people. Let's take another one here. Idimapuza says, it's only those that have something to hide that will be against the presidential tribunal being openly done. May God help Nigeria. All right, AB, let's take a look at some more stories that are making the rounds in the papers. And this one is coming out of The Nation. Some incoming governors have given insight into how they intend to make their state economically buoyant during their tenure. Now, they say apart from raising the IGR, that's their internally generated revenue, they said they will provide conducive environment by paying attention to security. Now, AB, aren't these rhetorics that we've heard over and over, a lot of talk?
Indeed, they are. And some of the government.
AB, you're muted.
Maybe you're muted. You're muted.
There's a book called The Book of States, published by some Nigerian government agencies, that shows that every single state in Nigeria has potential to be an amazing economic generator of jobs, revenue, and everything. Security has been very, very poor for the past few years. And if and when they face security, then they can really delve into the other parts. But like you say, they've said it. There's a few days to come. Some of them will enter, and the first thing we'll hear is the treasury was empty. And so all the seemingly good plans will now go unmet because the treasury is empty. I just think that there is no excuse. If a governor gets paid based on the amount of revenue and economic activity in his state, trust me, there'll be a direct connection between him and the people. Right now, they wait each month to go send somebody to Abuja, literally to go and beg for a little pittance and come back and dispute. And if you heard, it's been falling steadily this year from a high of 900 billion in January. Last month, we got 600 billion, and it's falling. So we cannot continue that pathetic model of so-called federalism. It is not, it's feeding bottle federalism. Each state needs to see themselves as a model economic entity that pays taxes to the center. And yes, we may have to tweak the whole notion of the federal government getting 52% and states and local government getting less, because the people live in the states. They don't live in the federal government, so to speak. But they've said it. It'll now be up to us, the citizens in the various states, to see if they will carry out their so-called plans to increase revenue. We've heard this all before. We want examples.
Joseph, now, as AB mentioned now that the numbers have dropped from about 900 million to 600. Now, shouldn't this be like an alarm or a warning call for these governors that, okay, what we've been receiving has been going down? Shouldn't we try to figure out, okay, what are we going to do now to start making more money? I mean, for a normal person who goes out each and every single day and looks at the economy and sees there's inflation out there, I'm collecting XYZ as salary, I need to start thinking, what else am I going to do in order to shock what I'm getting right now?
Yeah, I mean, their response would be that, yeah, that's what they are saying. Oh, they are going to do, they are going to increase their revenue. So it's a talk. But the point is that there are key things state governments can do that can turn things around. One of which is the ease of doing business. They should deliberately want to improve the ease of doing business in their states and make that. It's not just by saying, oh, we want to create economic and viable environment for business and so on. How do you do so? That's what we expect to hear them in clear terms, which what it is saying. In concrete terms, what steps are you going to take? These are broad speeches, statements, and we're going to increase our revenue. How are you going to do it? In most of the states, you can't get C of O. You can't do all those things that should help you to establish a business. They are not there. The ease of you want to get anything, there are state governments that will block you, that will ask you to pay multiple taxes and all that. Those are the kind of things they ought to be addressing, but they are not.
Those are the kind of things we need to be addressing. Enough of the talking, and of course, more walking is needed, not just talk and talk and talk. Let me just take one more message here from Shegun. Shegun says, the governors are not bothered. They must just encourage their citizens to migrate to Lagos or Abuja in search of greener pastures. And that's all we can take on Freshly Pressed this morning. Thank you so much, Joseph and AB, for joining me to analyze stories. And have a great Friday and a great weekend.
Great weekend to you, to
fantastic listeners. Yeah. Always a pleasure and a privilege.
All right.
Thanks.
And thank you all for all the messages this morning and being a part of Freshly Pressed. There's still a lot to look forward to on Smooth 98.1. 8:15, we'll get into the locker room and talk about sports and everything that's been going on in that space. Keep listening to your lovely music, love life station, Smooth 98.1. Thanks so much, Ibi.
Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful weekend ahead.
There's a message here that came in. I chose not to read it on air. Let me read it to you. I was just annoyed. This person said, the initiative for women, I wonder why we keep giving special treatments because we feel they are marginalized, which is all lies. Are men too not finding things hard? The earlier we stop this pandering to women, the better. You even hear how women want 35% of political seats. This is an unintelligent narrative. The men work their way up, so women too should work. The way men of today pedestalize women is worrisome. Weak men are a cancer to men and masculinity. I just couldn't bring myself to read this dross, because this is...
Brother, let me tell you, there is something about that I get where the person is coming from. Maybe I wouldn't have expressed it quite that way on air, but there is a problem with, there are men who need help. In fact, the world needs help. So this consistent thing where you make a program for women, what of the men who are competing with them in the marketplace? I just think that there is, this person is quite, how do I put it, red pill. But, you know, there needs to be consideration for men too who need help, ongoing and active help. You know, I'd word my own differently with less vehemence, maybe. But there is something to be said for what they said. That's my perspective. I'm not backing away from that
the core of that sentiment needs to be addressed and engaged with. But, on another show, perhaps.
Perhaps. So many things going on. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. Say hi to Mimi, please.
Zibi. Oh, Mimi, Miriam. All right.
Mimi, yes.